Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and I believe we're recording episode 211, 212, somewhere in there. And today I am really, really excited. And I know that I say that in most episodes, but when we first started the podcast, the dream was to eventually get some C-level carrier people on. That has proven tricky. We've had tons of like insurtech founders and stuff like that, but it's hard for the carrier people to get sign-offs from their compliance people. But today we have Michael Bourque, and I do hope that I pronounced your last name correctly. Michael is CEO and President and CEO of MEMIC. So our first C-level carrier person, finally, after 212 episodes. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm glad to break the ice for you, and honored actually. I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts, and I enjoy them. They're entertaining and good news for the insurance industry to have an excitable voice like you're speaking for us.
I'm very good at that, at the excited piece. So for the listeners, as usual, we're recording both in audio and in video. So if you're listening to this on your podcast app, and you are home and prefer to watch the YouTube version, there is a YouTube version on the Insurance Nerds YouTube channel. So Michael, normally we start by letting people do kind of the commercial or the like who their company is and why you should use us or why you should come work with us. So to be fair, I'd give you that chance. So tell us about MEMIC.
Thanks. Well, it's my favorite subject to talk about, so I'm happy to do that. The MEMIC Group is based in Portland, Maine. We're a workers' comp specialty insurance company. We write only workers' comp, except actually a little bit of employment practices actually in our home state of Maine. But we write over $400 million annually and growing down the East Coast. We're licensed across the country, but our marketing territory is really down the Eastern Seaboard. We started in Maine in 1993 as a result of a legislative reform of workers' compensation insurance here in the state of Maine, which had some really big problems, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit as we go. But within a few years, really turned on our entrepreneur jets and began to get licensed outside the state of Maine and worked our way down the East Coast, where as now we're about 2/3 outside of Maine in terms of our premium and a third inside. We love to focus on prevention. That's what we started. That's our bread and butter. We care deeply about workforce safety. And we have a great team of people who work on that, and that's where we make a difference. And so that's been our road to success, is to get in, work with a policyholder to make their place more safe and drive down the cost over time. That's good for us. It's good for them, and the agents love us because we say what we're going to do, and then we actually do it.
So was was MEMIC the monopolistic work comp carrier in Maine before '93?
No, actually, MEMIC didn't exist.
Oh, okay.
Before 1993. Yeah, there was no organization serving as the state fund. There had been a series of problems in Maine through the years where benefits continued to increase, and then costs increased, and the state's regulators attempted to hold down the cost by telling insurers they couldn't increase their rates. In doing so, that finally at some point the commercial insurers said, well, we don't need your little state. Sorry, we're leaving, creating a crisis, putting everybody in a pool. So you had a mandated form of insurance and really not many commercial writers willing to do it. And, the costs continued to spiral. When people were in a pool, there wasn't much incentive to get better. And so finally, it was fairly well known. It's certainly well known in Maine business history, but it led to a shutdown of state government because the governor at the time, a Republican governor and a Democratic legislature, the Republican governor said, John McKernan was his name, said, I'm not signing this year's budget until you bring me workers' compensation reform that we can agree on. And they called his bluff. And so over the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, the state government in 1991 shut down in Maine over a workers' comp problem. And, very soon thereafter, probably the citizenry didn't really pay that close attention at the time because, who pays that close attention to workers' compensation regulation? What does that mean to the guy in the street? Well, what did mean something to the guy in the street was when they closed the state parks and the state liquor stores over a 4th of July weekend. That suddenly got the attention of the public, and the legislature and the governor got great attention for this issue and said, hey, the citizenry said, we got to solve this. And so ultimately they did what every great politician does. They formed a committee and sent them off to go to work. And they came back with a series of what was a significant reform of workers' comp. Really did 3 things. It reduced the benefits to the national average that were due injured workers. It created a dispute resolution system that tried to keep lawyers from being as involved in the system as they were. There was a time when about 40 cents of every dollar for a workers' compensation case was going to an attorney in Maine. It was a very profitable thing. In fact, there was a Democratic governor at the time. He said, we don't have a workers' compensation system. What we have is a retirement system for lawyers. So they needed to fix that. So the third thing it did was they caused the formation of a mutual company to be known as Maine Employers Mutual Insurance Company, to be the guaranteed market for workers' comp in Maine, and that's MEMIC. So that's when we were created, 1993.
So there's a lot here that's super interesting. So I'm an insurance nerd and I'm a history buff. So the history is very, very interesting. Is Maine one of those states where you can only buy liquor from a government-owned, like Ohio?
At the time, that was the case. So yeah, so it was a problem.
Yeah, that's really funny. 4th of July weekend, especially.
Yeah.
Okay, that is very, very, very interesting. And for the younger listeners who are newer to insurance or haven't had a chance to really dig into insurance, pricing is based on the costs in the system. It's that simple. We really ultimately, most of the time, we really make money on investing the premiums in between.
Right.
Where most of what comes in goes out in paying for claims. So basically, as a state, if the state tells you can't increase your rates, ultimately what ends up happening is companies leave, right? So this happened in Florida after Hurricane Andrew. California has had issues with that. So yeah, you can't, while we are a highly regulated industry, the price, you've got to figure out how to lower the cost in the system. You can't just tell the company to lower their price. So very, very, very interesting. Also, you were talking early about the good match between what is good for the company, what is good for the companies you insure. That's one of the beauties of workers' compensation done right. We don't have any conflict of interest. We don't have the conflict of interest that Lemonade claims insurance companies have. I'm not saying that we actually have it, but in workers' comp, truly, it's best for everybody if we help you control your losses, right? It's better for
Absolutely.
us, for the employer. It's better for the employee that doesn't get injured.
Yeah, and I would say, as a mutual company at our roots, that even ties it together more closely. The fact that it really does put all the motivations in the right place. From our perspective, certainly we have to be profitable. We need to be profitable, and partly we're producing for our owners. They want their employees well and able to go to work and be productive, and their employees want to be able to work and produce for themselves. So it can be a virtuous cycle when I think the dynamic tension has to be all in the right place. So, I think that's where the law makes a big difference is, in Maine, it was a mismatch that somehow they found a place for attorneys to make their way in and be a big part of the system. And they weren't additive. They didn't make it better for any of the parties involved except themselves. And so, I think those are the kinds of things that you have to have in place to have an effective system. And also, but I have a dog out here who's just decided to start playing behind me. You're used to dogs on your show here.
Oh yeah, you can show him. I'm a dog person. So, the 40% is truly amazing because even when things go to litigation, within insurance, the attack lawyers, no, they're not attack lawyers. The opposite of defense lawyers.
Plaintiffs bar.
Thank you. The plaintiffs usually, right? The standard is they get a third. They get 33% if they win. So the fact that they had managed to capture 40% of every work comp dollar in the state is beyond insanity. That is really, really crazy. And of course that was killing workers' compensation within Maine. That's super, super interesting.
Yeah.
So the company is fairly young for an insurance company.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
From 93.
Yeah, that's right.
So does that mean that you've got an advantage when it comes to like technology and like you're not as tied to like 40-year-old technologies as a lot of our carriers are?
Well, I think there is some benefit to that we don't have the deep legacy that some companies have to deal with, but we still have it now. We just transformed a claim system that was created in basically came out in 93, 94. The company, we just cut over to a new system, and it's a big effort, but it's not like it was 40 or 50 years old. You're right. I mean, that exactly was helps us in the short term, and also we didn't have some of the claims from the old system to deal with. So, as we know, workers' comp claims can go for, decades. The tail on them is very, very long. And so at least we got a sort of a fresh start when we came into existence.
Okay. So for the listeners, if you are an agent that does workers' comp in the Eastern Seaboard, and you don't have MEMIC in your list of carriers, take a look at MEMIC. And personally, like I'll be honest, I did, before preparing for this podcast, I thought you guys were a Maine exclusive carrier. I had no idea that you were licensed in all states. So I'm guessing there's a lot of people out there that don't know. So it's good to get the word out.
Thank you. Yeah. And we're interested. We've worked our way down the East Coast, and our focus on workplace safety has been the lead. Basically, we go in at the we don't work with everybody. We don't write all classes of business. We don't work with all agents. We really are looking for partners who are interested in helping make a difference with a customer. Usually, if there's not a problem, if there's not something to be solved, the opportunity that we have is probably kind of slim. There's really not necessarily a reason that you'd hire these guys who came out of Maine at some point and say they know something about safety and workers' comp. They're specialists, so that's all great. But really, you're not likely to change if there's not a real challenge. And so we like those challenges. Maine was actually, at the time, Maine had the highest injury rate in the country when we came into existence, and lots of old line manufacturing and not much technology that had been invested. And so, part of what we did was to take hold of the challenges that Maine had. That's why the costs were so high. I mean, the costs were high because there were lots of injuries and there was a misaligned set of regulations. And so tackling those two things were in tandem is what we went to work doing. And ultimately now rates in Maine are down by over 50% from what they were back in 1993. Now rates have gone down a lot of places in the country, but in our case, lost time injuries are also down by about between 30 and 40% now. So it's been a big deal. So we take that model essentially on the road and bring it out and try to help some others down the coast.
So the nerd in me really wants to find a reason. And I'm trying to think of a reason. I haven't been able to figure one out, but I really want to find a way to correlate the fact that you had the highest accident rate in the country and the fact that you're Stephen King's home state.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. That's for sure. Right. Yeah. In fact, this is a little known fact. So one of the things I talk about people about, what do we do in Maine? How do we? And I said, well, we insure, lots of people. We insure everybody from the big retailer LL Bean, well known in Maine, to Stephen King's housekeeper. We have a policy, or we used to. I don't know. That's still in effect to this day. But now there's a scary bit of business, right? Yeah. In Maine, we do all sizes. Outside of Maine, we're sort of focused on a little bit larger entity where we can make a difference. But we know Steve. It
makes perfect sense. It's truly the only thing I know about Maine is the fact that it's really northern state, and the fact that it's Stephen King's home. So because I do happen to be a fan of his. So thank you for giving us kind of the tour around MEMIC. So I always try to lead the conversation towards a career focus, because I know that's where insurance came from, and a lot of people listen to us for that piece. And you've had an interesting career, right? Your degree in journalism Uh,
Right.
Not
Crazy.
super common among insurance CEOs, I'm guessing. So how did you end up in your current seat?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I would say probably my first job made me even less likely to be an insurance CEO because I started in sports writing. My first real job out of college was as a sports writer in Anchorage, Alaska. So of course, you know, that leads directly to
So
being an insurance CEO in the
I,
Northeast, right?
I was about to ask if you were from Maine because uh, if I'm not mistaken, Maine has no professional sports, do you? No, no,
It's
no,
true.
no, no. Portland. No,
We have
that's the other
minor
Portland,
leagues. There are minor leagues, but there are no professional major league teams. Yeah,
and neither
yeah,
does Anchorage.
that's right.
Okay.
No, true, true. Yeah, yeah. So I am from Maine originally. I graduated from the University of Maine in journalism and took a job as a sports writer in Anchorage, Alaska. I had written about hockey in Maine, and so they had a college hockey team out there that they hired me to come write about. And I did that for about a year and a half, and was sort of looking to find my way back to the East Coast, and did after about 3 years there. I remember looking around the newsroom and realizing I started to think about that and say, okay, what else can I do with this writing skill that I've learned? And you know, so I began to look at opportunities, and ultimately I went to work. I went to work in Washington D.C. and as a PR in a PR job for a trade association. And then in 1995, I was getting married and about to come back to work, looking to find a new job back in Maine, and there happened to be a PR opening at this company called Maine Employers Mutual Insurance Company. I really didn't know what workers' comp was. I had to look it up in an encyclopedia at the time. I mean, there wasn't even anything online available to really tell you what it was. And so I did, and I went and did the interview, and they hired me. So I said, okay, I guess I have to learn this business.
So you came in through PR.
Yeah, so I was in PR and communications, and I always say that I kept my reporter's license to ask all the questions. And you know, one of the things I quickly realized was that there weren't a lot of people with my background anywhere near an insurance company, and that it was being able to write and communicate well was sort of a superpower that I could put to use, and was able to do that and help become sort of the translator. So I saw myself as both translating from the inside and insurance, just as you do, and you understand the general public doesn't know insurance very well and certainly doesn't appreciate it as much as it really ought to. But additionally, inside the company, having people understand that when you use certain words, when you say loss control instead of workforce safety, that there's a different connotation there. They may mean the same to you, but outside that, that's not the case. And so, you know, that was my role, and I sort of increased it along the way and took in, you know, the marketing side of the business, and then into external affairs, where it included government relations and lobbying work. And I worked directly for the founding CEO of the company for the last 17 years before I was hired as president and CEO 3 years ago now.
So this is super interesting. Before we started recording, I mentioned that on LinkedIn, you've got basically the SVP of External Affairs role, right? That's the first role that you have listed. I very much had assumed that you had spent some time in underwriting or sales along the way, and then made your way to External Affairs. And then, so basically you made it to President CEO of the company without technical
Yes, it's true.
insurance experience. This is super interesting. And also,
Yeah,
okay.
you know, I mean, it's certainly a unique place to come into this job from. On the other hand, you know, one of the things, the important roles I had, because I was describing and always translating inside out and outside in, as I said, I had to learn every aspect of the organization and enough to be able to understand where it succeeded and where it didn't, and what was, you know, what it did. And, you know, some areas I knew better than others, there's no question. And, you know, we have great technical leads throughout the organization, and we'd had those all along. And I think the board, in hiring me, the board said, you know, we don't need necessarily a lead underwriter. We have some great underwriters. We don't need a lead loss control person or claims person. We have those. And so, that's how I came into the role. And it is certainly unique. That's true.
Fantastic. It certainly makes a case for how important communication is, and how important being good at writing, being good at speaking, being good at speaking to groups, being
Right.
good at translating. Like it seems that every other day I'm having conversations with actuaries in my day job, and I'm telling them the difference between a between a hands-on actuary and a chief actuary is much more their ability to communicate with non-actuarial crowd than their actuarial abilities, right?
Right.
They truly, in every side of the business, communication skills are so very, very important. So it's great to see how that worked for you. So I'm curious, what advice do you have for the young insurance professional, right? The young claims adjuster, or the young agent, or the young underwriter, or call center. I'm assuming that at MEMIC you guys don't have giant call centers like
Right.
in parts of the world, but what advice do you have for the young insurance professional to make the most of their insurance career and grow here?
Well, I think the first one is one that we talk to MEMIC people about all the time, and it won't be a big surprise, but it's be curious. Ask questions. That's how you learn. I've always thought that, I learned it certainly as a reporter, but the beauty of asking somebody a question is that you automatically are honoring them by sort of assuming they know an answer. They know something you don't. And so by doing so, that you put them in a place where they feel good about it, and you're likely to learn something. And so, do that, because none of us learn insurance, in school. There are very few programs, and those people who have some risk management, background have some of it, but they don't have all of it even. And so it really is something that is learned on the job. So continue to ask questions and understand how your role fits with other roles, which connects to another role. Because it is obviously all interconnected, and understanding the whole really does, I think, for me, I always need to know that. I always need, what is the context in which I'm working? What is my place in all of this? And I think it's something that helped me learn along the way, meet lots of people, and continue to grow in my career.
So be curious. Yeah,
I think you're there, Tony.
Absolutely.
I think you got it, really, because you're doing this. I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing. I mean, I do really think that there's so much knowledge around us if we reach out into and especially now, especially in this era. I mean, you're finding it certainly by doing your podcast. I mean, it's a golden age where you can reach out and get information from somebody. My son is a student at American University, and he had a project recently in a communications class. And he had seen somebody on ESPN recently. So he emailed him, and the guy said, sure, I'll do an interview with you. And so, people are accessible in, small ways. Not everybody, not all the time, but certainly you can learn a lot just by asking a few questions.
100%. I had a lot of luck early in my career, asking for, and I was doing it internally within Nationwide, but basically, sending emails to leaders and showing a sincere interest in their area of the industry, of the business, and wanting to learn more about their area, and basically saying, I'd love to get on your calendar for like 15 minutes, even if it's 6 months from now, right? Whenever it might work.
Yeah.
I'll bend over backwards to make it happen, right? I'd love to pick your brain about your area of the business, where you see it going. And I think everybody said yes. The success rate was close to 100%. And often I had to wait weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks for, and then sometimes it was one of those it got scheduled for 6 months out, and then last second they would have a cancellation, and I would get a message from their admins saying, hey, if you have time today at 1, they're available. But I learned a lot and learned a lot about a lot of different areas of Nationwide. It was very, very helpful, definitely. And the curiosity is one thing. And I'm probably in the extreme of it. I'm in the curiosity killed the cat warning zone. Well, I'm just
Well,
curious.
I do think in this business, I think, most of us know now that we really do need to help to draw new people into the business, and that, as fast as the industry is aging, we need to create people who are interested in what we do. And so the way you do that is to share your own excitement for your work. And, believe it or not, there are a lot of us who are pretty excited about the insurance industry who are in this business.
You are so right. There are many people who are very excited about this industry, and their personalities are such that they're not likely to be loud about it. But I catch them in conferences, and when I ask them about it, the passion for the industry is clear. They're just not loud like I am, right? But I agree. Once you've been here for a while, if you've been in insurance for more than 5 years, chances are you care about this industry. Chances are you care about the company you work for. Chances are you believe in what we do.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with that.
Just to that end, I mean, this is, I do workers' comp, right? And I believe in it so much in terms of its value to our society, is that, I think it was one of the keys to creating a middle class in America. I think, when it came into existence, it essentially helped people protect their biggest asset, which was not at the time their homes. It was their ability to work going forward in their lives, what they could do with their hands and their back. And, if they got injured and couldn't do any of that, then that took away that future. And workers' comp, mandated protection of that, and really did lead people to be able to take the risk to do the work that they needed to do and to feel protection going forward. And I think that's one of those sort of key foundational elements to the creation of our great middle class.
That is a fantastically interesting perspective. So I've always said that, and I understood it when I did CPCU. Otherwise, I would have understood it 5 or 10 years into my insurance career. But I've always said insurance is crucial for the economy, and we do good for the world every day, and we are absolutely crucial for the economy to function. And every developed country has a more developed insurance system than a less developed country. But I never thought about workers' comp in that way. That is very interesting, and I agree. Like it makes intuitive sense. So basically, the middle class was created a combination between Ford doubling his
Right.
pay so they could buy the cars they were producing,
Right.
and workers' compensation coming to be so that those people could be covered if they lost their ability.
Yeah, protect their biggest asset. I think that's
that is I love that. That is a really fantastic way to think about it. You've really so I've done very little work in workers' comp. Like I've as an underwriter, I've had a little bit of workers' comp in my book.
Yep.
Right, a little bit. So I've never really thought about workers' comp in that deeply. So that is very, very interesting. Are there?
Well, it's another really interesting as a line of business because of the tail associated with it. Because you're basically you own the claim forever, and so the judgments you make today you're going to pay for those for many years, and or they'll either pay you back or they'll cost you. So it really is it's something you have to be very careful about and pay very close attention to your actuaries.
So for the younger crowd or for the crowd that has never worked in workers' comp, has never paid too much attention to workers' comp, it is a fascinating line. You're 100% correct that the long tail, but also it's a line, and correct me if I'm wrong, since you know a lot more about workers' comp than I do, but it's a line where there's no policy limit. The policy limit is statutorily set, not set by us, right?
That's it.
So it's not right. In every other line, you've got 1 million, 2 million, or whatever, and that is the extent of what the policy covers. In workers' comp, right? The asbestos policies are 40 years later have paid out billions and billions and billions of dollars and continue to pay out because those people still have medical bills. So it is the definition of a long tail line.
Yeah, you pay for as long as the person has the disability, or if they died as a result of the injury, for their dependents. I mean, there were all sorts of cases that were cited way back that, a 1922 case that the New York State Fund paid into the 1990s on, or something like that. I mean, just incredibly long times. And of course, that one didn't have a cost of living adjustment, so it was a tiny payment at the time. But now when you deal in escalators for cost of living, and the other thing that really is important in workers' comp these days is the improvement in medical treatment and ability to do things, technology in medicine, but the cost that goes alongside of that was never accounted for maybe in some of the old claims. And so we have lots of things that we're doing now that nobody anticipated could be done, and people are living longer. So the combination of those things is makes it difficult. There's no question about it, but also really, really interesting.
For real. I learn something every day, and it is very interesting when what I learned is directly insurance related. For the real nerds out there, are there any are there any designations specifically for workers' comp, and are there any great books to learn more about workers' comp?
There is a designation that a group called AmComp does, called the Workers' Compensation Professional, and it's a pretty straightforward class, but it gives you sort of the history, the sense of where it came from, the form, and then some of the basics around claims. One of the things, of course, like most insurance, it's regulated on a state-by-state basis, and so what they say about workers' comp laws: if you've seen one state, you've seen one state. It's just, it's a little different in every place. I saw something recently that there are, I believe, 70 different variables within benefits that the group of the IABC, which is the accident boards and funds, which are the administrators on the workers' comp side in each state and some Canadian provinces, but they track between 60 and 70 attributes of claims. Certain specific awards for losing a finger, to certain types of injuries that cost a certain amount, to limits on certain percentages of body part impairment, all sorts of things. So there is a lot to consider and track in it. I think that's, those are hugely interesting. But anyway, the Workers' Comp Professional is a test that AmComp offers. We've had at MEMIC, it's something we do. We really put a lot of stock into. We have over 200 people who have taken, of our 500, over 200 who have taken and passed that WCP exam. It's not as as the CPCU is sort of the gold standard in insurance, of course, and it's a single test, and it's a single course. So we do it. There's a review course that we have contracted somebody from the risk management program near our home office to do, and now does it online. And I think it's a really great program because it provides, we have IT people who do it, we have underwriters who do it, we have claims, finance, people across the organization who have taken the time to do it because they wanted to learn a little bit about the industry they're in. And it's made us a better company by doing it. And I think it's a great, if you're interested in the workers' comp world, I would certainly take a look at that. It's available online through AmComp.
I will definitely include the link to that. Thank you. I had never heard of it since I don't work in the comp side.
No, I understand.
What I tell people, my theory on designations, having 10 designations is fun. It definitely is. There's a few people that have more than me, but career-wise, there's diminishing returns.
Sure.
So you do learn a lot in every designation, and they are interesting. But career-wise, I tell people CPCU plus one. So CPCU plus the one best related to the area of the industry you work in or you want to work in. So if you're in comp, CPCU plus the AmComp one would make a ton of sense. And chances are you won't need any more education unless you want more education. So thank you. Thank you for that. And are there any books that
there's a book that goes along with the WCP course that I would recommend, and I think about others. There aren't others that come to mind immediately, just around workers' comp.
I've never seen one about workers' comp at all.
Yeah,
right. Insurance, as it is kind of a niche
That's right.
Right. There's business books about so many other industries. There's not a lot of business books about insurance, to the point that we ended up publishing them ourselves. Right.
Right.
That's how little the competition is in the book space. That a non-professional group of non how do I put it, like a tiny virtual company with no employees.
Right. Yeah.
Is one of the leaders publishing insurance books nowadays.
That's great.
Because that's how few there are. So I collect them. I'm assuming you guys, you're not old enough as a company to have a book about MEMIC yet.
Actually, we did do something on our history in the 25th on the 25th year. We had a local reporter, an editor, do some research and publish something that we share with employees and with others. And it's called the Maine Miracle, because at the time it was proclaimed as that because nobody really thought we would be able to fix the workers' comp system in Maine. In fact, I have lots of former legislators on the record, in the legislative record, saying, we all know this company is going to be a disaster. And, today we stand here with 450 million in surplus and 1.5 billion in assets, and, have reduced costs by about 50% in Maine and injuries by 40%. So we succeeded certainly at levels that nobody anticipated. In part, they thought it was an intractable problem. I mean, it had been, the legislature in Maine had tried to solve it a few times and just couldn't get there. So we were pretty proud of that. And so we do have a book. I think it's available through our website, memic.com, and probably I think it's an ebook that's free. So
okay,
don't even charge it.
There's no printed version?
Not anymore. I think we ran out of the print. Yeah, I
wonder if I can find one on eBay, because I am a giant nerd, right? So I collect insurance books, and I especially love company histories. So I've got.
Well, I might be able to find you one. I'll see if there's something kicking around. I would send it over to you.
That would be awesome. So I've got like the USAA one. I've got the Farmer from Myrna, which is the State Farm one. The two nationwide ones. Like I've got a bunch of them. I haven't read them all, but they're part of my insurance nerds collection, basically, and I'm very proud of them. Anyway, this has been really, really fun. Thank you so much. I'm basically covered every topic I wanted to ask you about. So thank you so much for joining us. For listeners, if you're in the Northeast and the Northeast, keep an eye on MEMIC for career opportunities. And if you're looking for the right partner for workers' compensation, or you have a problem to fix, and you want the partner that is on the same wavelength.
Right. Very good. And I'll just make mention, we do have offices down the East Coast. We are in Manchester, New Hampshire, and Glastonbury, Connecticut, and in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tyson's Corner, Virginia, and Tampa, Florida. So there are opportunities in those places as well. Smaller. The headquarters is Maine, but we still have people in all those spots.
Okay, so when you said the Eastern Seaboard, you literally meant the Eastern Seaboard all the way down to Florida. Very interesting. I would have the last thing I would have ever expected to see in Florida was a MEMIC office. So that is very okay. Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm speechless. Like I knew.
I don't think that happens to you often. I don't believe.
Correct.
But, thank you. I had a great time. It was really fun to have a chance to talk to you, and I've enjoyed your program, and I'll look forward to keep listening. And thanks for the work you're doing. It's good for the industry, and it's important for us to do, because we need to attract both future workers and fans. We have to remind people about the good the industry does and what we bring to the economy. So thanks for the work you're doing there.
Thank you very much.